Madhava ki Shri Shri Radha Raghunath ki Jai, Shri Giri Govardhan ki Jai, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki Jai, Jagadguru Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachanam pangam lagayate girim yat kripa tamam vande Shri Guru Dinatayam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Kodadaya Pushpavanto Chitra Sangho Tamoda Nilachav Nivashaya Nityaye Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadramyam Jaganataye Vanchakapadrubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. So thanks for coming. Nice to see you, Smita Prabhu. Got off work, managed to get away.
Yeah.
It's a very appropriate chapter about the entanglement in the banyan tree of material existence. So our work is keeping us so busy. So we started with it last week. Let's do the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So chapter 15. I'll very quickly go to the first few verses because for continuity, and then so we stopped around 11 or so in last week. Yeah. So the chapter 15 is called the Yoga of the Supreme Person, or Purushottama Yoga. And in this month of Purushottama, it is recommended that we read this chapter. Try and finish all 20 verses. Very short. You can read, 5 a day, and you can repeat it 4 times. Or you can go 5, 5, 5. Yeah. So in every 4 days you'll be done with 20 verses. So in this chapter, Krishna is using the allegory or the analogy of a ashwata. Ashwata is a banyan tree. And that's used as a metaphor for the entire material nature, because banyan tree is so complex. I will see a picture of it just now. We looked last week, we were trying to figure out who's seen one and who hasn't seen one. But generally, if you drive in these rural areas, like you're going to Tonga, Verulam, and even in the south coast, you find like they have a tin structure for a temple, and generally the banyan tree growing either through the tin or in the back. You remember these things? Yeah, so I don't know if it's fast getting cleared up, but huge banyan tree. Now, the banyan tree includes not just the world, but all the fields of activities in it. It includes all the living entities in it. It includes the different aspects of the Vedas, it shows the demigods, etc. And essentially why the living entity gets entangled in the banyan tree is that we wished to lord it over, it's called, over the material nature. We wanted to become the lord and master, so we couldn't really exist in the spiritual world, because there's only one transcendental autocrat, and that is Krishna. So we get this world, and then when we want to be in control of material nature, then that leads to attachment, and also gives us a false sense of proprietorship, as if we are owning everything. So these are the things that keep us entangled in the banyan tree. So the spiritual world is at the top, rather than Krishna, and below it is the material nature. And the verse, Krishna starts by saying to Arjuna, it is said that there's an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and it branches downwards, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. Yastav eva sa Veda vit. The person who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Now if you look there, you'll see my point somewhere. So there's Lord Brahma. So that's the line dividing the material and spiritual worlds. And this way the tree is growing up the right way, and this way the tree is upside down. And the line dividing the material and spiritual world is desire. So just to give you a quick synopsis of the whole chapter, these are how it's divided. Not like that Krishna spoke it in these divisions. Krishna is perfect, so he spoke it and automatically it followed a type of sequence. But when the sages like Vyasadeva and other sages analyzed Krishna's words, then they could see, yes, Krishna is speaking systematically. Particular developments are taking place in the knowledge. So when they committed it to writing, then they divided it like this. So of course we had scholars in ISKCON and so on who studied, like Purushottama Prabhu was instructed by Srila Prabhupada to study and teach. So a lot of the information from Purushottama Prabhu has also filtered down through VIHE, Vaishnava Institute for Higher Education, and MIHE, Mayapur Institute for Higher Education. And there are many other online teachers. So the first 5 verses speaks about being detached from the world, explains the banyan tree. Then from verses 6 to the end, the Purushottama Yoga is described, starting with transmigration and then Krishna's position. And then we come to what is known as the 3 Sloki Bhagavad Gita. The entire Bhagavad Gita, the entire teaching of Krishna, is summarized in 3 verses in this. So the first part, you see, I've got it divided as section A, B, C, and D. So now I'll just focus on section A and expand it a little bit more. So in that section there, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that the living entities are his parts and parcels, but they are struggling in this tree. And one has to cut down the tree with the weapon of detachment. So, verse 2, the branches of this tree extend downwards and upward, nourished by the 3 modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive activity of human society. Text 3 and 4. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in the world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with a weapon of detachment. And the Sanskrit word in the verse is Asanga Shastrena. Sangha is to be in the association. Asanga means not to be, so that means detachment. And Shastrena with a weapon of detachment. so we can cut down this tree. And therefore, thereafter, once you've done that, one must seek the place from which, having gone, one never returns. And there surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything is extended since time immemorial. So text 5, which is the first section, it ends. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion and false association, who can understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender to Krishna, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the banyan tree, that's a banyan tree, you can see how complex it is. You don't know where the roots are, what are branches. It looks like roots are coming out from the branches, but then those are also branches. So it's quite a complex mesh. And Krishna in the beginning, first verse, tells Arjuna that Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So what is there? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, said, there is an imperishable banyan tree, Ashvatam Prayur Avyayam. Avyayam is imperishable. Prahur, somebody said, it is said that this Ashvatam, Ashvata. So who said? Krishna is saying it is said. But Krishna is saying it, so it sounds a little bit difficult to conceive of. Krishna, why did Krishna say, I said that there? He said, it is said. Now who is saying? Krishna. But why is Krishna saying, it is said? Who? Who is saying?
Sages.
The sages. So Krishna is showing the principle of understanding knowledge through the parampara. He is giving the bona fide. He says, the great sages have said, there's an imperishable banyan tree, and it's Urva Mulam. Its roots are upwards. Urva is upwards. And it is Adar Shakar. Its branches are downwards. And these leaves in this tree are the Vedic hymns. They are what gives the living entity the facility to escape from the tree. And those who know it, Yastam Veda, who knows this knowledge, Veda, then he is Sa Veda Vid, he is the knower of the Vedas, one who knows this tree. So Krishna sets that for Arjuna. You know, how do we conceive of an upside down tree? We've never seen it in reality, but if you go to a lake, a calm lake, you can see the upside down tree very clearly. So the top is the spiritual world, the original tree. The lion is desire of the living entity. And the upside down tree is the banyan tree, the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And is it real? Is this real?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is real. So why is it considered an illusion?
It's real, but it's temporary.
Because it's temporary. And because it's a reflection. But reflections are real, but it's considered an illusion because you get a little disturbance of the water, then there's no more trees. It's all gone. The reflection is gone. So that's the material nature. Sometimes manifest, sometimes not. But the spiritual world is completely manifest eternally. So this in the tree, there's lots of fruitive activities and transmigration going on. So I can get a little closer view, a superimposed now the spiritual world and the material world on top of that. So in that, zooming in, there's so many things happening in that tree. There's Lord Brahma is on the topmost planet, right? He's on the roots because the tree is upside down. And then there's all of these different things going on in this tree. There's economic, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, religiosity, mundane religiosity, moral practices. Then there is kama, desire for sense gratification. And then there are those who are also seeking liberation, like the sages and so on. within that tree. And there are different aspects of it. Srila Prabhupada breaks it down in the purports. We won't really go to it, except that each one of those aspects are described. The tree is the reflection, the nourishment in the tree are the three modes of material nature, what the roots stand for, the branches are the upper and lower planetary systems, and then there's various manifestations in the tree, different living entities, dogs, cats, animals, humans, and then the upper part of the demigods. So you can see that the analogies being explained in terms of each one of its components. So in the tree we get so many different types of worshippers. Shaivites, Sapta, sun worshippers, Vaishnavas, worshippers of ghosts and spirits, all are in this tree. So we can cross-reference to chapter 9 in 21, where Srila Prabhupada says the living entity is subjected to the routine of being promoted to higher planets and then coming down and going up, as if in a Ferris wheel in the fun fair. So that's the verse. Krishna says, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to the mortal planet again. Thus those who seek sense enjoyment, adhering to the principles of the three Vedas, achieve only repeated birth and death. So the three Vedas are given. Vyasadeva, when he spoke the Veda, he spoke all the knowledge. Everything which is fruitive as well as which is in the category of bhakti. Because they're different living entities and have different natures, so the knowledge is given according to their nature. And those who engage in the instructions of the Vedas, they get pious results. They go to the heavenly planets, and then they remain there, and after the piety is exhausted, they fall back into this world. So what do they get from it? You find they're wealthy, aristocratic, philanthropists, people who have great beauty, wealth, intelligence, all of this in this world. You must know it's due to their karma, or they have come back from the spirit, from the heavenly planets, and now they're still enjoying the vestiges of it. Just like when a fan is blowing, you switch off the fan, but it continues to run due to its momentum until it slows down. So similarly, they have the momentum of their pious credits until that gets exhausted also. So if they do not use their situation properly, then they'll go down, and they lose all those pious credits and so on. They become entangled in the consequences. So fortunately, those who practice the Vedas properly, they develop enough punya to come to the platform of Krishna consciousness in some other life. It takes long, because when yajna is done, who is the central beneficiary of yajna? Vishnu. Although they have all the demigods and so on that they call in the names, but the Vishnu name is also chanted. So by keep hearing about Vishnu and Vishnu and Vishnu, they're starting to develop pious credit. And eventually, they'll come to the mode of goodness, mode of pure goodness, enter into. Then somewhere, some devotee will suddenly stop one of these so-called people from the Brahmin families. They're so proud of that. And then invite them to temple, give them prasad, give them a book, something, and then they come. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that you can't perceive this tree, you don't know where it's going, how complex it is. You don't know its beginning and its end and so on. So don't worry about that. Just cut down the tree with detachment. Get out of it, and then you'll see. So, good AI generated picture there. said I wanted a huge, muscular man chopping down the banyan tree. That was my prompt, and this is what came up. I look carefully to see he's got 5 fingers. Because usually it comes out with 4 or 3 if you don't have the paid package. But anyway, with a weapon of detachment, determination, we have to cut down. But remember, detachment, we must not mistake it. Detachment doesn't mean that we don't do our responsibilities, we hate people, we become some kind of hermit and we just don't deal with people and so. No. Detachment is an internal state, which means you're focused on Krishna. You love Krishna so much that everything else becomes pale by comparison. So we preach attachment. Become attached to Krishna. Naturally, detachment will come. When you get the higher taste, you will give it up. So instead of preaching to people, we encounter people from all different backgrounds. They sometimes have sinful activity, alcohol, drugs, taking meat, and all of that. So we really don't. If you don't have a relationship with them, you can't immediately tell them, you know what, this meat eating you're doing is wrong. You're going to get hellish reactions. Sometimes devotees are like that. They're quite fanatical. Rather just say to come home, we're having a program, come take some prasad with us and so on, or come to the temple for the festival, and when they can phone you and you can meet them, and then make sure you got one kachori or something for them. When they come, you give it to them, then they start to get attached to Krishna. So real detachment is that we must give up our own selfish desires and to think that we are the doer. We are not. There's a chapter, 18? 5 factors. The 5 factors of action. And the 5th factor is the mercy of Krishna. Because you may try so many things, it doesn't work out. Something you try works out, you must know there's a reason. So everything should be used in Krishna's way. So who is the person that can surrender to Krishna? Text 5. Nirmanaha. I broke it up, let's make it a little bit easier so we can just check. So that one who is nirmana, one who is free from false prestige or pride. Moha, one who is free from illusion. One who is freed from false associations, jita sangha. Give up the false association of the materialists. Adhyatma nitya, the one who can understand the eternal. This is the sense. Vinivrita kama, one who is done with material lust, kama. And amuda, one who is not bewildered. You see, mudha means fool. But if you are mudha, you're not bewildered. And free from the dualities. Dvandai vimukta sukha dukkha samyaye. So sukha dukkha, happiness and distress, freed from the dualities. Alright, so then we go into the next section. Now here, we mentioned this last week, Krishna speaking about transmigration, how persons move within the tree from body to body as he searches for pleasure. If the goal is to get out of the tree and then go to Krishna, then you won't return from there. The devotees, the practicing devotees, they can see this clearly, how this transmigration takes place. But the foolish, they do not have any knowledge of it, so they can't understand that. So Krishna introduces his abode. Verse 6, he tells us about that supreme abode that is beyond this banyan tree. So, that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this world. That is the abode. Goloka, Vrindavan, and Vaikuntha. So, the living entities, they are struggling in this world. They are part and parcel of Krishna, but they're struggling. Ma my vamso jiva loka. They are my fragmental parts. But shasta, mana shasta indriyani. They're struggling hard with the mind, shasta 6, indriya, the senses. The 6 senses, the mind is included. They're struggling hard with that in this world. So then what happens? They have to transmigrate species to species. And how does the transmigration happen? 15.8. So Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this is his words, the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus it takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So you have the gross body of the 5 elements, and you have the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. The mind is the repository for the sense impressions. And if you're attached to a particular object of your senses, then that impression is in the mind. And it is the mind that will carry you to the next destination with the sanction of the supersoul in the heart of the living entity. So the mind is very, very important. So we should purify our minds through Krishna consciousness. So the subtle body, as you have these desires, then you actually are creating your future subtle body. So you may create a subtle body of an animal. If you're really grossly greedy in this life, and sometimes how we say that, how we describe people, sometimes we say, he's an angel. Or, he's such a pig. So you're creating. So one who has the angelic consciousness creates an angelic body. One who has an animal consciousness creates an animal body, the gross, subtle bodies. And then the super soul sanctions the movement of that soul into that body. So we can understand. So at the time of death, what happens then? You carry that to the next type of body. As also Krishna says earlier, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kala kale maram tam tam evayati kuntaya sadatan bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one has at the time of death, that state he shall attain without fail. So if you've got a doggish consciousness, then you'll enter into that. If you're demigod consciousness, take them. If you're Krishna conscious, go back to that spiritual world. Janma karma chame divyam. That one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities will not take me. So, nice graphics, whoever has done this, to show how you can move from your one body to the next. So at the time of death, the gross body gets destroyed. Then the mind carries the soul to the next destination. So just as an air carries aroma, Krishna says. So the mind is like the wind, like the air, and it is blowing across this beautiful rose garden. So what kind of wind will that be? How will it? What's the nature when you smell it? Very aromatic, fragrant. But then it blows across the rubbish heap too. Then what happens then? The stench of it all. So similarly, as the mind associates with whatever is spiritual or material, the mind will carry the impression just like air carries the aroma. And you get a suitable body for that. So the consciousness creates the impressions and for the next body. So Krishna then explains how that continues that idea, that how when you transmigrate, then you get the appropriate body. You take on another gross body, a certain type of ear, eyes, nose, tongue, sense of touch in the new body. So if you're carefree there, you can see all the senses, but then there's a little snake, frog, dog, in there, hiding in there. So 59, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about consciousness and pure consciousness, and if the consciousness is contaminated by the association of the material nature, then then you become entangled here. Just like pure water gets colored if it's muddy, or we change it, add some color. And the pure consciousness is there, just has become adulterated. And it's adulterated by our association with the material nature. Consciousness is pure. Like this light now, if I were to spray it red, you're going to get a red hue from there. But beyond the red paint is the white original consciousness. So the devotees, they can understand how this transmigration happens, but the foolish cannot understand. Vimudha, they cannot understand this. And they cannot understand that what's going to happen in their next life also. But those who have Jnana Chakshush, Chakshush means vision. Chakudana Dilode, Chakshudana Dilode. So they have that Jnana, if they have that divine knowledge, they can see. So, I will give credit and acknowledgement to some of the devotees whose classes I study. So, in all of these Bhakti Shastri, I refer to different devotees. So, my own spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Chala Swami Maharaj. Then, His Holiness Shivaram Swami Maharaj. His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj, and Sri Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. These are all my go-to people. I like to listen to their lectures, and they're very astute practitioners as well in terms of intelligence. So, if the mirror of the consciousness is dusty, due to our own confusion and bad habits and material desires, then we cannot see clearly. But when we clean that mirror through the practice of Krishna consciousness, then the heart becomes clear, we can see clearly. Everything becomes visible. So how to clean them? These are the practices. Chant Hare Krishna, read and hear Bhagavad Gita, take darshan of the deities, take prasad, serve with love. Service is good, but serve with love. Cooperation and joyous service with other devotees. Not that we have some animosity to the devotees, or when we get together doing service, then we're not really talking about Krishna, commenting on other devotees, some gossip is there. It's an illusion to think that if you cannot serve and love the devotees here in this world, that you'll automatically go to Krishna. This is the testing ground. Get it right here. Then you can enter. And always remember Krishna. So there's 6 things that weaken our devotional life, that dirty part of the mirror. From nectar of instruction, it's Atyahara Prayasasya, Prajalpa Niyamagraha, Jana Sangas Chalolyamcha, Shadbhi Bhakti Vinashyati. These 6 things, Shadbhi, Bhakti, Vinashyati, they destroy, vinash, they destroy your bhakti. Eating more than is needed, collecting more than is needed, working too hard for temporary material things, waste time in, so atyahara and prayasas. Prajalpa, wasting time in useless talk. Niyam agraha, so the word niyam agraha, niyama plus agraha, two words are joined, and over the middle A there's a stroke, which makes it a long A. Niyam agraha, or without the stroke, niyam agraha. So, niyam agraha, following the rules and regulations of religion simply for the sake of following it or blindly. And niyam agraha, neglecting the rules. Both are not recommended, because one should know the purpose of why you are practicing, and the purpose is to develop Krishna Prema. So people come into the temple, I'll sit there and watch and observe. They come in, they bow down, just put their head down and wake up and they go. Because it's an expected thing that I must bow down in front of the deity, in front of Krishna and so on. So it's just like, okay, it's a habituated thing. But it's just rules for the sake of rules. But when you go in front of Srila Prabhupada and bow down, you should chant Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantras fully. You chant your Guru's mantra, because by him you get to Prabhupada. Then you chant Srila Prabhupada's mantras fully. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Utile Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. And you are conscious of the meaning. Then you rise, thank Srila Prabhupada, go to the deities. Then in front of the deities you also offer your respects and the pujas. Yeah, irrespective of place. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, offer. So then you're doing it for the proper reason. So both extremes are not allowed. Keeping bad association. Jana Sangha. Bad association. We know what that can do. And Jana Sangha Chalolyam. Greed for worldly success. There are people that make worldly success their religion, and they will do anything about it to get to that. So we are not denying that you should work and make money and so on. If you want to make money, yes, make a lot, make it for Krishna. Not for your sense enjoyment. In that way, you will be placing yourself in the early stages of karma yoga. Right? So you can do. So be enthusiastic. This is now the do's. Utsaha nishchaya dharya tat tat karma pravartanat. What is it? Sato vrite. Yes, so Shadbir Bhakti Prashiddhiti. So be enthusiastic, practice with confidence, but be patient. Regularly chant Hare Krishna, avoid bad association, and follow the teaching of the Great Spirit, Sato Vrite. So in this way, your consciousness will become purified and you'll be able to. So the next section, 12 to 15, Purushottama, Krishna, his position as the maintainer is being described here in this. So verses 12, Krishna tells us how everything comes from him. The splendor of the sun is Krishna's radiance, his self-effulgence. The moon, fire, all of this is Krishna. He's showing us how he manifests personally and cosmically. Why is this being done? So that it becomes a point of meditation. If you think about it, then you're more likely to remember Krishna. I remember when I did a Bhagavad Gita overview with a class down in redeem. So we're speaking, or in the Nectar of Instructions, we're speaking there about Krishna says, of all of the bodies of water, I am the ocean. So the one student told me sometime later, says, Prabhu, whenever I go to the ocean now, I think of Krishna. I'm seeing the blue color, I'm seeing the vastness of Krishna. So you become conscious, that's what it means to be conscious of Krishna. Wherever you are, you're conscious of Krishna. Krishna says that also, Rasoham apsakuntaya prabhashmi shashi surya pranama sarva vedishu. Shabde ke nirsham purushu. That I am the taste of water. Rasoham. Dear Arjuna, I am the taste of water. Prabhashmi shashishu. I am the light of the sun and the moon. Pranavasa. I am the Vedic syllable Om in all of the Vedas. And I am the ability in man. So everything we're conscious. When we're writing, when we're typing, yes, Krishna has given us this. Otherwise, soon it can even be taken away from me. I can lose all that. So we're always conscious. So Krishna is explaining that. And in that purport of 13, Srila Prabhupada explains how. Well, firstly, the verse in 13, Krishna says, I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So two things there. Gravity. How is gravity? We think about gravity. But Krishna says, I enter into each planet. I am keeping them afloat. Just like here, Krishna is keeping the world afloat. If someone is holding a handful of dust, Prabhupada says in the purport, there's no possibility of it falling. But if it's thrown into the air, then it will fall down. But Krishna's fist is holding the fist. He's holding in his fist the planets, the universes, and so on. So we're just touching on very quick ideas. I hopefully encourage you to read the chapter again before the Purushottama Mass is over. This is a very important verse. Sarvasya chaham Riti Salivistu Mata Smritim Jnanam Abohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarvaya Aham Eva Vedyam Vedanta Krit Veda Vid Eva Cha. I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So when the living entity transmigrates to the next body, Krishna will give as the super soul that knowledge which is necessary for that living entity to operate in that body. You don't have to teach a baby to suckle. Automatically the reflex is there. Mothers hold the baby to their breast, immediately they start drinking. That knowledge is given. There is one error in I think when I change the font, that's what happens. Jnanam, not jasam. When I switch the font, then that's what happens sometimes. I use a font called Malaram, so it retains all the Sanskrit and the diacritic marks and so on. So Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sarvis. Knowledge is given and forgetfulness also, because you forget your past life, as well as if you want to forget Krishna, Krishna will allow that too. If you want to remember Krishna, he'll allow you. If you want to forget it, he'll allow you to. And as we see, many people do for a while forget Krishna and they remain entangled. So Krishna is declaring now. Sometimes people say there's so many Vedas, so many things to learn and all of that. But the essence of all the Vedas is to know Krishna, and he declares it himself. Vedas, Vedaischa, sarvaha eva vedyo. By all of the Vedas, by the Vedyo, I am to be known. I am to be known. Vedas cha sarva. And I am the compiler of the Vedas. I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna gave the Vedas to Lord Brahma, and then he rejuvenated it by sending Sri Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is considered a Shakti Avesh avatar of the Lord. So even on that platform, I am the compiler of the Vedas. So now after Krishna speaks about that, he's the goal of the Vedas, etc. Then he summarizes this. We're coming to the last few verses. So he summarizes this Vedanta. So Vedas means the vast canon of knowledge, and Vedanta, Veda plus Anta. Anta means the end of the Vedas. So what is the conclusion of the Vedas? Is that one should surrender to the Supreme Lord. So here, Srila Jiva Goswami has analyzed the process and introduced these three words: Sambandha, Abhideha and Prayojan. Sambandha means relationship. Abhideha means the process of all the activities. And Prayojan means the ultimate goal of life. So in the verse 15, then Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, last few lines, one can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding the Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Lord, Sambandha. By performing different processes, one can approach him, the activities, Abhideya. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, Prayojan. So once you know your relationship with Krishna, then what do? You have to act in it. And the process of devotional service is Abhideya. And what's the goal of all of that? The goal is, what's our goal in Krishna consciousness?
To reach Godhead.
Yes, but Godhead includes even the Vaikuntha planets.
To serve Krishna.
Yes, to serve, but the goal that will enable you to serve?
Love of Krishna.
Yes?
Love of Krishna.
Love of Krishna. Krishna Prema. That is the goal. Krishna Prema. To love Krishna. So that's the goal of life. So in these verses then, 16, 17 and 18, is known as the 3 sloki. The 3 verses that summarize, just like in chapter 8 we had Chatur sloki. Chapter 10, sorry. There's Chatur sloki. There's 4 verses summarizing. So here's 3 sloki. 16, 17 and 18. So let's see the 3 verses. Krishna begins by saying, now there are 2 classes of men, of beings. There's fallible and the infallible. What does fallible mean? You can fall down. You're imperfect. And the infallible. So the fallible living entity is the conditioned soul who's here, bound in this tree. And the infallible are the liberated souls that are existing in the spiritual realm. Or they come here also to perform their Leela and teach us, like Srila Prabhupada. So fallible Nitya Bada and infallible Nitya Siddha, eternally. So those are the 2 classes of beings, 16. So now we know our relationship with Krishna. So Krishna then introduces this Sambandha Jnana in this. So 17, besides these 2, Arjuna, besides this infallible and fallible, there is the greatest living, the supreme person, supreme soul, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. So Krishna enters from Mahavishnu, Garbha Dakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and he's the super soul in every atom, in every heart. So Krishna is the super soul. So he's revealing himself as the supreme soul. He's maintaining the entire cosmos. And then in 18, Krishna establishes himself. Because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. Vedaischa sarva eva vedyo. Lord Brahma declares that, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sri Vyasadeva declares it in Bhagavatam, Ete chamsa kala pumsa, Krishna astu Bhagavan Swayam. So these three verses then are actually summarizing the entire teachings. What are the teachings? There are two types of living entities, one bound, one unbound. Then there is the Supreme Lord as the Paramatma in the heart, and he's permeating, pervading the whole universe, maintaining it. And beyond all of that, there's Krishna. So the entire Vedic teaching is encapsulated in this three sloki. So how to understand these verses as actually being the essence? So there's a hierarchy, very clear. We can see conditioned souls, liberated souls, and the Supreme Lord is beyond both. So what's the process? To be engaged in devotional service. That helps us. And then these verses are also seen as the essence. Why? Because they kind of affirm bhakti. So Krishna as Purushottama is in 1518. So those three are tied in with. I'll skip that right for a second. Oh no, I need that. So the conditioned living entities we discussed, so 16, 17 and 18, that is encapsulated in a concept called sambandha, our relationship. And then we engage in the service. Whoever knows Krishna's position knows everything. So Krishna says that in text 19, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, he is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me. So that's the abhideya, the process. And then text 20. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, or sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know all perfection, will know perfection. And what is that endeavor to know perfection? Krishna Prema, the goal. So that is how these three verses are analyzed. So text 19 is abhideya, text 20 is prayojan. So this is a very quick synopsis of the entire chapter, and I hope you have been benefited from that. So Srila Prabhupada makes sure that he says in the last purport, the Lord is said to be the sun, and the ignorance is called darkness. Wherever the sun is present, there is no question of Krishna. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance. So it behooves one's surrender to a bona fide representative of Krishna coming in the parampara. So so the idea at the end of it is that we should surrender. There are people who we see that they come to Krishna consciously, they like the association of devotees, they like the benefits of being in the temple, facilities, prasadam, kirtan and so on. But if you have to ask them, so who is your authority in ISKCON? Who is your mentor? Who's tutoring you and helping you? They have no answer because they still have an independence. They have not submitted themselves to a bona fide devotee to take shelter. Of course, we are reading Prabhupada's books. He's pure and those books have their effect. But the process is given by Krishna and Prabhupada. Tad vidhi pranipadena, 434. Pariprashnena sevaya, upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas-tattva-darshanam. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. How do we do it? Submission, submissively. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. He can impart the knowledge unto you, for he has seen the truth. Tattva-darshi has seen the truth. So that surrender is needed. Wherever you go, you share your Krishna consciousness to the degree that you have your own realization. One should not try to impress people beyond one's own level of consciousness. So, by engaging in this process of devotional service, you'll be able to cut through the banyan tree of material existence and go to that abode which is not illumined by the sun or the moon. So we'll stop there, and that is 20 verses. It's been done very quickly. So it looks like an overview of the chapter. In Bhakti Shastra degree, then we'll go through the purports in detail. Look at different purports. Okay, so I think I'd like to end that picture with Srila Prabhupada praying before the deities encapsulate this very teaching of this chapter. Whoever understands this will become wise in his endeavor to perfection. So we stop there. Any questions perhaps? We have a few minutes. So Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing with us such beautiful wisdom today. We touched on transmigration, being bound in this material world as a spirit soul moves from one body to another. It made me think that at the time of death, remembering Lord Shri Krishna, you attain Shri Krishna, you go to Gaura Vrindavan. So I'm wondering, does that suggest we have an original form of body in the spiritual world, or how do we exist here as part and parcel spirit souls of Shri Krishna? What sort of bodies do we get?
Every living entity has a different swarup in the spiritual world, and that we can't really determine now in this present state. It's only when you have attained Krishna Prema and you've left this body that you will be able to understand where you're situated. So the perfection of your Swarup Siddhi, will come at that time. So we shouldn't even endeavor to think what it might be, because then we can become sahajya, meaning we'll cheapen, we'll take it, we'll be pretentious. So sometimes like in Vrindavan and so on, a lot of Babajis there, they try to, give some idea. They will tell the Western devotees and so on, you are a gopi in the spiritual world, you are this, you are that. And then that person starts to act that out when they're not even in pure consciousness. So it becomes sahajya, cheapens it. But it will come to know, at least we know we are in Lord Chaitanya's troop, army. Somewhere there will be that. And that comes, when your practice is very pure and so on, then you get some inclination, some dream. like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave his position. Then you got the 6 Goswamis who've come to learn from Kavi Karnapur, great devotee poet, who they are in Krishna Leela and so on. So with us, with a conditioned living entity, when we come to the platform of purifying our life and let's relieve our body and let's say we're successful in getting Krishna Prema, we don't even enter the spiritual world immediately. We take birth in one of the pastimes in this material world. Krishna's his eternal road show is going on. Right now he's stealing butter somewhere. Right now he's dancing somewhere. Somewhere else he's killing demons. It's all happening simultaneously. So the living entity will take birth in that one of those leelas and will expunge the last bit of the anarthas, obstacles, go back to the spiritual. Yeah, it's nice to think that, but really just think, when you go to the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada will be waiting for us there. Say, come, take us in his camp. Whatever we are there, it doesn't matter as long as you're in the spiritual world. One can be a blade of grass. Krishna will walk on you every day. But everything is conscious in the spiritual world. The water, the grass, everything. Krishna's pillow is also conscious. When Krishna is sleeping, then in the morning you wake up, the pillow is at his feet. How did that get down there? Krishna had a restless sleep, right? But then he's not even in sleep because Mother Yashoda sees dry leaves and twigs in his bed. Where did that come from? He was out in the forest. So the pillow says, oh, I want to go down to those lotus feet of Krishna. So the pillow slides down. So everything is conscious. Thanks for the question. Anything else? One more?
Anyone, say something?
This month, I think really stress this chapter that we should really give to the 4 principles. Our devotees do, but sometimes they follow. And accept that.
You've seen that they follow.
Yeah, they come and they would ask me why they give us a lame excuse. But work, business, nothing.
Well, I think the best thing would be for us to start ourselves with it.
Yeah.
And others, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we have no right. By the association of Hari, Guru and Vaishnava, they shall become purified. So rather we just read this, follow the principles of ourselves, etc. Then whether others come or don't come, it's okay. Up to them. Yeah? People may have practical reasons why they don't come. Also, if you're working, you've got other things. Externally, at least, it's very hard to judge who is a devotee, who is not. So we don't do that. We just offer our respects to the one who is chanting the holy name. We offer all respects to that person. So, until and unless we have a relationship with somebody, to correct somebody, you have to be in a position of authority, like temple president, head of department, manager. Then you can correct. Or you can be a guru and correct a disciple. Or you can be a friend of somebody and speak in a friendly way. But other than that, we have no authority to say anything to anyone. It's all a relationship. And of course, if the person approaches you.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes, I mean, it may be something blatant you can correct, like somebody comes into the temple and then they drink something in front of the Lord. Sometimes devotees or visitors come and stand before the altar and they forget the Lord is there and they're conversing. So you can go up nicely and say, Hare Krishna Prabhu, don't mind, just take your conversation that side, away from the altar. And also you're not telling them to stop when you're saying take your conversation. Then they register, oh yes, I'm sorry. So those little things, so we can see, on the merit of the case itself. But instruct people about their spiritual practices, and all of that we're going to be very sensitive. We can encourage. Say, it'd be nice if you can chant this month. It'd be nice if you can read Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. It'd also be nice if you can fast. We can say it like that. And ultimately leave it to them. Thank you very much. Anything else, Prema? Sharinamaji? Sharinamaji should be in my class, in my Bhakti Shastra class.
Oh, for me, any question? Oh, do you mind telling us about, you mentioned class. You mentioned that you're doing some courses as well.
Oh, yeah.
Could you tell us, you said audio, visual, and presentation.
Yeah, because I'm part of the college teaching, and then I do my structured lessons. But some time back, His Holiness Parthasarathi Das Goswami told me, kind of instruction that I should go center to center at different places like Namahatta and do structured teaching of Prabhupada's books. So I did that in Ballito, Labasi, I did it in Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, and Merebank, Namahatta. I spent a few weeks doing Bhagavad Gita overview, and then I spent another 4 weeks with them just basically doing lecture instruction. So in that way, because devotees generally don't have time to study, but they have committed themselves to the Namahatta. So at least we can use the Namahatta. And if there are new people there, then you can adjust your teachings for them as well. But you can do that. But if you're keen, you can set it up, you can come. Lecture instruction is 4 weeks.
Okay.
Just 1.5 hours, or maybe 1 hour, just to go through the essence.
Is it okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Next one is action. So whenever you're ready, Prabhu, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we can advertise it out to other people to come. We're doing this, and then you get certification through Bhaktivinoda College for that.
Thank you so much for your service.
Some of you have already studied it, but it's good to have a refresher. We done? Okay, let me go now. Thank you so much for your kind invitation, giving me an opportunity to do some service yet in Purushottama at the Namahatta. I came for my benefit. Take the association of Hare Krishna.
His Grace Smita Prabhu ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So then you have my Bhagavad Gita overview, right?
I joined the 2023
Yeah.
class. That's essentially how I got into Krishna consciousness after taking a class.
That's good to know. So we did it over a few Sundays, right? Online.
It was over 4 Sundays, I think,
Right.
4 or 5, and I think for me the penny just dropped. I mean, I always was, somewhat having a little bit of association. I always knew about it, but at a very surface level. But then when you hear how, like you said, like you did the course, you explained the essence. It was so simply expressed, but so profound, So that just hooked me, and it's never been the same again. I'm sure any devotee can understand.
Can't be the same again.
Yeah, can't.
So Rupa Goswami said that if you want to maintain your material comforts and friends and so on. Don't go down to the Jamuna and look at the beautiful boy playing the flute there. If you want to meditate, don't go there. Because then you won't come back. You'll be home with Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Krishna.